So I'm going to add a pose morph to each of these, the right eyelid, bottom and top. I'm going to have them only affect the rotation. And this is going to be the blink pose. They each have a blink pose now with a strength of 100. And so what we're going to do is, on the blink pose, rotate each of these to their blink position, which should be around right here, I think. Right there on the top one, and on the bottom one it'll be up right here. There we go. Just see what that looks like if we grab that strength slider. All right. And I wonder why it says strength. I think it's because all right, well, let's just change these to blink. And under the tag, we're going to make a UI out of this one. This is, yeah, I feel like I want to make a null with the user data so that it has a connection to with the strength of the user data to this strength slider for the blink. So, all right, we'll just keep going through the pose morphs for now. Let's do the same thing on this left eyelid. We're going to add a pose morph, which is under the character tags, just like this, and then we're going to make them both be rotation. And this is going to be blink. Should change these to right eye blink. And under the rotation, we are going to make sure that these are the exact same. So on the bottom rotation, I want to make sure I have the right. Oh, I see. Hold on. So on this one, it changed it to blink, and on this one, because I had them both selected at the same time, it was not showing me that this one was called blink also. There we go. So it's 76 and 29. Top 76. I'm just going to copy and paste the pitch into that pose, which is the blink pose. And there we go. All right. All right, so now we're going to create, now that we've created those pose morphs for these eyelids to be able to blink whenever this strength slider is slid, what we can do is now create some controllers that will move with the head that are easy to grab. And so what I'm going to make is a rectangle. I'm just going to center it up with the head here. We'll just make it come forward a little bit. And I'll just put it over to the side here. And let's make it even a little smaller in the height. Just a little thing that we can just grab really easily. And let's make a little text inside of it. This is another cool thing you can do. Just center it up by doing a PSR 0. You can say whatever you want, and this is just going to, indicate for us, for the user, I should say, what this is for. So then we can just make this say eye blink. This is why splines are really great. And I'm going to make this go a little smaller right here and just kind of center it up. And I will add a protection tag to this one so that nobody can just grab that one. But if you grab this one, we'll make these both white. There we go. But if you grab this one, what we're going to do is add a user data. So don't get too scared. I just learned this today, but it is a really, really cool thing that you can do to add a quick little controller inside of a controller, which is meant to control something. You know, so it's the whole rigging mentality is just what can I make that can help me control this a little bit better. So in this, what we're going to do is add a user data. And this allows us to basically make a whole new, setup inside of attributes that we can use as a slider. So if you make a group, it makes a new button over here. So that's what we want to do, add a group. Let's call this iBlinks. And then we'll put the data for that group right here. We'll call this the blink strength. And then we'll just leave everything else as it is, press OK. So now when we click on this, there's this new iBlinks user data over here called iBlinks. Wish I could change the name of user data. In fact, let me try that. Manage user data. So maybe we can take it out of that and we can remove this one. Maybe not. Okay, yep. So taking that default one off and just making the iBlinks its own group with user data, it just becomes its own thing right here under the rectangle. And the blink strength is right here. So now what we're going to do is a quick, really quick espresso rig. And don't be worried because we're going to do it all right here inside of this layout, this user menu. So let me just go to our eyelid. We'll do the left one, bottom and top. These both have a strength slider. So what we're going to do is actually first start with the iBlink strength. And we'll just right click, go to Expressions, Set Driver. That's all we have to do. It's one little click. Let's go down to these, and we're going to grab our left eyelid bottom, go to Expressions, Set Driven, Absolute. So that means that 0%, it's going to be 0%. At 100%, will be 100%. Set Driven, Absolute. It created an Espresso tag for us. We didn't even have to go into the Espresso menu. So let's just do it. The same thing, we'll just set Driven on this one, Absolute. And we can even do that for these two because we know that the strength is going to be absolute on these as well. Expressions, set Driven, Absolute. So now let's try it out. If we grab this, we've got our blink strength. If we slide it, you can actually see, I'm going to get real close here. You can see that it is actually making those eyes blink. And that's perfect. And that's exactly what we want to do. Another thing we can do is we can make this add to HUD right here. We can keyframe it. I thought we could keyframe it. Maybe not. Let's not do that. Okay. So there you go. You can keyframe it now by pressing this, and then we'll go forward a couple frames. And it's blinking. You can't really tell, but she is blinking there. Bloop, bloop. All right, I'm going to go ahead and delete that track for now. And let's parent this to the head. To the head control. So now whenever she moves her head, that iBlink controller will move with her. There you go. So let's make a couple more controls for these eyebrows, just so that she can have a little bit of expression to be able to go up and down. That's just going to be right here. And we'll do the same thing. We'll make a little driver for it, a little slider for it. Okay, so on the tags, what we want is character and pose morph. And this is just going to be position and rotation, I think. Okay. I don't think we're going to do any point manipulation on these. But for this first one, let's call it eyebrow furrow. Or just, how about furrow? I'm just going to position these a little bit. Okay, let's add another one that's called sad. I think I might have to do a little bit of point manipulation on this one because I don't think these are quite sad enough. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll turn off this, and then we'll make sure on these pose morphs we have points added as well. And under sad, just pull these down a little bit. A lot of these moved forward a bit, so there we go. Making sure it's still kind of following the contour. We'll just do the same thing on the other side. That's much sadder. So now we can turn these back on. And I do want to have some sliders for this, but we're going to do this on the like a different eyebrow controller. So let's set that up over here. Just make a copy of this. Call this eyebrows. Okay. And under this, we can add some of that user data. So let's make another one. Call it, make a new group. Actually, you know what? We're just going to use the one that's here because it's already built in. I'm going to call it eyebrow movement. And we need to go back into that and do manage user data. And then what was the first one? It was called furrow. Let's make one called furrow. I keep getting out of it, but let's manage user data, add data, make one called sad. All right. So now we have our furrow and sad, and what we've got to do now on the furrow is just add a set driver on this top one for the furrow. And on this one, we're going to do the set driven on the strength of furrow. Actually, we need to be on the animate mode. On furrow, we need to change this expression to set driven absolute. We'll do the same thing on the left one. Go to animate mode, set driven absolute. And then for sad, what we need to do is go back up to this control. And on this one, we'll do a set driver. And go back to the eyebrows, pose morph. On the sad expression driver, we just need to change this to set driven absolute. And for this one, set driven absolute. So now we're going to make some poses on the eyebrows, and make sure that you're inside of your actual mesh and not on the subdivision surface for these changes, because you can easily mess up your whole mesh thinking that you have your pose morph turned on, but in fact you do not. So let's do this and make sure that our pose morph is on the actual eyebrow mesh. And we're going to use position, rotation, and points. So I do want to make our first pose, I want it to be a eyebrow normal pose. They both have that. That's good. We'll make a new one, and we'll make it called furrow. And we'll make this one go, actually let's just call this normal, and we'll call this one normal. On the furrow one, what we can do is grab both of these, make sure they're on furrow, okay, furrow. We'll position these down and out just a little bit, like that. And let's do a little bit of shape manipulation here. Might even push these down a bit. Yeah, give her a little push it down. I already pushed it down, so now I just need to do a little shape manipulation. Make sure we're on faces. Okay, that's looking pretty good. That's just the furrow one. We'll just test that out. Yep, looks great. Now let's bring it back. We'll do a sad for each one. This just involves a little rotation. So make sure we're on the sad one. Okay, good. And I do want to do some shape manipulation again. It's a lot quicker to just use the brush tool for this kind of stuff. If it looks good, no one will hold it against you. That one's pretty good. Do the left one. Yep. On sad, yeah, it's right there. And then just try to keep it nice and even, except right through here. All right, we got a nice little bit of variation from one to the other, which is cool. We'll just kind of move it down just a little bit. And let's pull that a little closer to the face. There you go. So now we have a base, a normal, a furrow, and a sad. Normal, furrow. Just need to pull the strength slider up and it's at the furrow and then it's sad. There we go. It's kind of neat that you can even do one or the other. If you didn't want to have a controller over here, you could just go into each of these pose morphs whenever you want to animate them, and you can just do them individually or at the same time. But I am going to go ahead and try to do that same thing that we did with the eye blinks and just set up a little bit of user data. We've got furrow and sad here, and then let's add one more. Call it normal. All right, and then we'll call this, do the set driver. Let's save it real quick. And then we'll make this normal strength slider. Actually, it's got to be inside of the animate tag. There we go. All these are set to 100 right now, so if you set them all to 0, it goes back to the base pose. That's what you want. So for the right eyebrow, we're going to make the normal, the driven, absolute. Same with this one. Set driven, absolute. Let's go back up to that controller. For furrow, let's call this one the driver. Expressions set driver. For furrow, we set driven, absolute. Set driven, absolute. Let's do one more with the sad, set driver. On this one we'll do, oops, going back over here. On sad we'll do set driven, absolute. And same for that one. Let's test it out. On normal, just goes from 0 to 100, which is fine. Probably if we just do a furrow like this, you can even kind of animate between them a little bit, and then it can even go back to normal. Well, maybe not. Looks like normal is just, it's kind of a useless slider at this point, but that's okay. If we have this furrow and sad, we can bring it back to this. What's nice is that you can even add more poses to this as much as you want. If you feel like, you know what, I want to have one where it's just the left eyebrow that goes up. You can make one that's just that and then create a new controller inside of your eyebrow null. You can make one that's like, oh, she's raising her eyebrows like she's surprised. I feel like we should do that. So let's go ahead and get into this pose morph. Go to Edit. We're going to add a pose and call it surprised. Is it on both? Just call pose 0 on this one, so let's call it surprised. And let's raise it up. There you go. And if we go back to the animate mode, it doesn't let you move these sliders anymore because there's a controller for them. So let's just make sure inside of this one, you know what, we'll change the normal one. No. Yeah, let's go into user data and we'll manage user data. This normal one's not really doing anything because when we just bring it back to 0 on these, it creates a normal one. So let's just remove that. We'll add a new one, add data. And this one will be surprised. There we go. I think the order is whichever order you have it in the user data. So let's make this the driver. And then we'll go to the animate tag, and then we'll do this one, absolute. Absolute. Now let's try it out. Sad is not there anymore. Furrow can be back to 0. Surprise, there you go. Now we've got the eye blink slider over here, which blinks even though you can't really see it. And then I think I want to do maybe a couple more little finishing touches before we move on to UV layout and texturing, right before we do the animation. We're going to try to get through that real quick, but one more thing I would like to add is maybe a little bit of squash and stretch or a bend deformer here, and then that way we have a little bit more control for when she is running, for it to kind of do a little bit of bending and swinging and just some extra cool stuff. So that's what we're going to do next.